During Thanksgiving dinner, my son-in-law grinned with defiance. In 3 days, we are moving into your new condominium, my daughter added coldly, and you will end up in a nursing home. I simply nodded, concealing my fury, because I had a plan for revenge, sharper than a carving knife. When they stormed in on Sunday, their smug expressions dissolved like ice in the sun. They believed I was a feeble old man, but they were mistaken. The turkey had been roasting since 9 that morning. I basted it 4 times, the way Eleanor used to, brushing melted butter over the bronzed skin until it shimmered. The table was set with her fine china, the set with the subtle green border she collected over 35 years of marriage. I folded the napkins into perfect fans, placed them precisely beside each plate. 4 settings in total. Me, my daughter Beatrice, and her husband Harold. They were due at 2. By 4:30, the garlic potatoes had crusted over, and I had reheated the asparagus 3 times. When the knock finally arrived, I opened the door to find Harold already scrolling his phone. Beatrice stood behind him, her face blank. Traffic was brutal, she said, avoiding my gaze. No embrace, no apology. Harold pushed past me into the living room. It is stifling in here. You have the thermostat set too high or what? I closed the door deliberately. It is 72 degrees. Same as always. He was already inspecting my furniture, tracing his finger along the armchair. This stuff is ancient. How old is this recliner? 25 years, 28. I moved toward the kitchen. Dinner is ready. I just need to slice the turkey. Beatrice sank onto the sofa without offering assistance. Her phone glowed in her hands, and she began typing. Harold wandered to the window, staring down at the parking garage below. You have been in this place forever, have you not? He asked. 32 years next April. He made a noise that might have been acknowledgement. I returned to the kitchen, listening to their low murmurs in the living room. My hands moved through practiced motions, carving the breast meat, arranging it on the platter. Everything appeared flawless. Everything felt broken. At the table, Harold sat heavily and immediately seized the wine bottle. He poured himself a full glass, set the bottle on his side, and took a long sip. So, Victor, he said, cutting into the turkey without waiting for me to serve myself. This is a touch dry. Do you not think? Beatrice. We should have gone to that ribeye place I suggested. My daughter took a tiny bite and lowered her fork. It is fine, Harold. I spent all morning preparing this, I said quietly. Your mother used to make the dressing this way. Beatrice's jaw clenched. She returned to her phone. Harold commanded the meal with tales of his real estate flips. A property in Tucson he turned for $75,000 profit. A retail deal in Flagstaff that collapsed. He spoke in that confident manner of his, gesturing with his fork, explaining market cycles as if I could not comprehend. When I mentioned a case I had worked on, a corporate fraud scheme I helped expose during my years as a forensic accountant, he nodded distractedly and redirected the conversation to property appreciation. I noticed him snapping photos, quick ones, phone angled toward the living room, then the dining nook. For reference, he said when he caught me watching, the apple pie was homemade. I rolled the crust myself, mixed the filling from fresh apples. I brought it out with 4 forks and a can of whipped topping. Harold leaned back in his chair, arms crossed over his chest. Before dessert, we need to address your living arrangements. The air seemed to thicken. I set the pie down carefully, centered it on the table. What arrangements? I asked. Beatrice finally looked at me, She pulled a glossy pamphlet from her purse and slid it across the table. Golden Horizon Assisted Living, smiling seniors in a courtyard, activity schedule, 24-hour medical care. Dad, I found you a fantastic facility, she said in that measured tone reserved for toddlers. They have everything you need. You will be much safer there. My hand tightened around my fork. I forced myself to set it down gently, fold my hands in my lap. I do not need, Harold interrupted. Victor, I have made a decision about your situation. Sunday, we will be moving into your Sedona Ridge place. You understand it is too much space for one person. It makes no sense for you to be rattling around in a 4-bedroom condo when you cannot even handle the stairs anymore. I could handle stairs perfectly well. I had climbed 4 flights just last week when the elevator was under repair. Sunday, I repeated. I already made duplicates of the keys when we helped you tour the place last month, Harold continued. He pulled a key ring from his pocket, dangled it briefly before pocketing it again. We will handle everything. You just need to pack your personal belongings. The moving truck is booked for 9 in the morning. Beatrice would not meet my eyes now. She studied the pamphlet, smoothing its edges with her thumb. Do not make this harder than it has to be. We are doing what is best. The table between us held the wreckage of my Thanksgiving meal. Beatrice's barely touched plate, Harold's empty wine glass, Eleanor's china that had witnessed 35 years of family gatherings. Back when family meant something. 4 days, I said slowly. Harold nodded, satisfied. Exactly. Sunday. We will be there at 9 sharp. I looked at my daughter, really looked at her. The way she held herself stiff, the rehearsed quality of her words. This was not a sudden decision. They had planned this, discussed it multiple times, waited for the escrow to close on my new condo that had happened 2 months ago before making their move. I see, I said. They left before 6. Harold already on his phone scheduling something. Beatrice pausing at the door as if she might say something else. She did not. After they left, I sat alone at the table, the untouched pie, the pamphlet with its smiling elderly faces. I picked up the pamphlet, studied the address, the glossy promises of safety and community. Then I walked to my desk and pulled out a file folder labeled Property Records. My hands were steady. I had work to do. The night stretched long. I had not slept. Instead, I sat reviewing documents until sunrise. Now, Friday morning, light filtered through the shutters, casting bars across my dining table. Every paper related to my Sedona Ridge condo lay spread before me like evidence at a trial. The deed, purchase agreement, escrow closing statement, title insurance, all bearing my name. Victor Alexander Wellington, sole owner. Purchased outright with $520,000 from my retirement savings. No mortgage, no co-signers, nothing ambiguous. I opened my laptop and logged into my bank accounts. Checking account $14,000. Savings $380,000 remaining after the property purchase. Both accounts showed only my recent transactions. No unauthorized access. Not yet. The untouched pie was still on the counter where I had left it. I scraped it into the trash. My phone sat beside the laptop. I picked it up and dialed a number I had looked up an hour earlier. Lawson and Partners. How may I direct your call? This is Victor Wellington. I need to consult with Mr. Daniel Lawson urgently about property rights. Family members are attempting to take possession of my condo without authorization. Can he see me tomorrow? The assistant's voice shifted, became more attentive. I can fit you in tomorrow morning. Does 10 work? 10 works perfectly. Thank you. I ended the call and immediately dialed another number. Martinez Notary Services. Miss Martinez, I need to update some legal documents. Power of attorney revocation. Possibly a new will. How quickly can you accommodate me? I have availability next week, Tuesday afternoon. Excellent. I will call Tuesday to schedule once I have met with my attorney. I set the phone down and pulled out a yellow legal pad. My handwriting was still precise despite the sleepless night. I created a timeline mapping every interaction. April 2024 told Beatrice I was purchasing the condo. October 2024, Harold helped me view the property. November 2024, escrow closed. Obtained keys. November 2024. Harold made copies of keys without asking. December 2024, they announced their plan. 6 months of planning. Waiting for the right moment. Thanksgiving seemed deliberately chosen. A day when I would be vulnerable, nostalgic, surrounded by reminders of family. I turned to my computer and opened old files from my forensic accounting career. Case notes from 38 years of investigations. The daughter who systematically drained her mother's account, transferring money in amounts just below reporting thresholds. The son who forced his father to sign over the house by claiming incapacity, then sold it within a month. The nephew who manipulated the will while his uncle lay dying, forging signatures with practiced ease. I had tracked those people down, testified against them, watched them squirm under cross-examination as their schemes unraveled in precise, documented detail. The patterns were always the same. Isolate the victim, create urgency, present the theft as help, as care, as what is best for everyone. Not with me. I started a new list. 1. Secure property legally. 2. Protect financial assets. 3. Document everything. 4. Investigate their situation. That fourth item deserved attention. Harold's rush to move in with 4 days' notice suggested desperation, financial pressure. In my experience, people with stable situations did not need to steal from elderly relatives with such urgency. I photographed every document on the table with my phone. The deed, the closing papers, bank statements, emailed copies to myself as backup. Then I grabbed my keys. The drive to Sedona Ridge took 40 minutes. My new condo sat in a contemporary complex with desert landscaping and a gate requiring a code. I had memorized that code. I parked across the street and studied the building. 4th floor, corner unit, 2 balconies, morning sun warming the stucco walls. I had chosen this place carefully, spent months searching for the right property. Eleanor and I had always planned to move somewhere nicer once we retired. She had not lived to see it happen. I visualized Harold walking up those stairs using that copied key, claiming my space as his own. My phone rang at 8 that evening. Beatrice's name on the screen. I let it ring 4 times before answering. Hello. Hi. Daddy. Her voice dripped false sweetness, the kind she used when she wanted something as a child. I just wanted to check in. Sunday is all set. Right, Harold has everything arranged. You will not need to worry about anything. Just have your personal things ready. You are being reasonable about this. Are you not? I sat in my armchair, the one Eleanor had picked out at a furniture store in 1995, phone pressed to my ear, my other hand resting on the chair's worn arm. Yes, Beatrice. Sunday. I let the pause extend. I will see you then. Dad, I know this seems sudden, but it is really for the... I need to go now. Goodbye. I ended the call before she could respond. The copy of the property deed lay on my desk. I picked it up, ran my finger across my printed name. The paper felt substantial, official, legal weight behind every word. Sunday. Harold expected to walk into my home with his copied key in his moving truck, and his smug certainty that I was too old, too confused, too powerless to stop him. Let him come. My mind cycled through the old cases again. The criminals I had exposed, the methods I had used to track money, uncover lies, document theft with such thorough precision that juries needed less than an hour to convict. I had spent 38 years investigating people who thought they were clever, who believed they had covered their tracks, who underestimated the quiet man with the calculator and the patience to follow every thread. Not with me, I said aloud to the empty apartment. Saturday morning would bring the first real move. I set my alarm for 5:30. The lawyer's appointment was at 10, and I wanted time to review everything again. As I finally lay down to sleep, I thought of Harold's smug face across the Thanksgiving table, his arms folded, his rehearsed speech, his absolute confidence. Sunday. He expected to walk into my home. I would be ready, more than ready. I allowed myself a small, cold smile in the darkness. I woke before the alarm, 5:30 in the morning, and my mind was already cataloging the day's tasks. The lawyer appointment, the notary, the condo. By 6:30, I was dressed and reviewing my notes one final time. The documents I had reviewed all night were now organized in my briefcase, color-coded tabs marking each section. Property deed under green, escrow papers under orange, my handwritten timeline under purple. Everything Harold and Beatrice needed to see laid bare, except they would not see it. Daniel Lawson would. I arrived at Lawson's downtown office at 9:45. The building was older brick, solid, the kind that housed attorneys who had been practicing for decades. His name appeared on the directory in simple lettering. Lawson and Partners, 4th floor. The waiting area held leather chairs and legal journals. A receptionist glanced up, saw me checking my watch. "Mr. Wellington, he is ready for you." Daniel Lawson met me at his office door. Early 50s, steel gray hair cut short, handshake firm without being performative. His office smelled of old books and coffee. "Come in. Tell me what is happening." I spread documents across his conference table systematically. The deed first, then the escrow statement, then my timeline. As I talked, he listened without interrupting. No sympathetic noises, no reassurances, just attention. When I finished, he picked up the deed, examined it closely. "Mr. Wellington, let me be clear. This property is legally yours. Your daughter and son-in-law have zero claim. If they attempt entry without your permission, that is criminal trespass. We can pursue restraining orders if needed." He set down the deed. "The copied key is concerning. We need to eliminate that vulnerability immediately. I worked 38 years investigating financial exploitation of vulnerable people," I said. "I testified in court against family members who did exactly what my daughter is attempting. I never imagined I would be on this side of it." I met his gaze. "But I am not vulnerable, and I am not unprepared." "No, you are not." He pulled a legal pad toward him, started writing. "I will draft a cease and desist letter today. You will have it by tonight. Tomorrow, when they arrive, you hand them this document. No arguments, no explanations, just the letter and a closed door." He looked directly at me. "Can you do that?" "Stay firm. I can do that." He made 4 phone calls while I sat there. First to the county recorder's office confirming my deed registration. Then to a locksmith he trusted, explaining urgent weekend service needed. Finally to a security company describing camera installation at a residential property. Then to a title company verifying no liens. I wrote him a check for $6,000. My hand did not shake. This was not expense. This was investment. You will hear from me tonight, Lawson said at the door. Check your email around 7. The letter will be there. The notary's office sat in a strip mall near Camelback Peak. Small, efficient. The walls covered in certificates. Elena Martinez was maybe 62, gray hair pulled back, reading glasses on a chain. Mr. Wellington, come in. The new will took 25 minutes to read thoroughly. I went over every line before signing. Martinez watched me without rushing, her pen ready. I have notarized many documents like this. Mr. Wellington, family situations that turn difficult. She applied her seal with practiced precision, the press leaving its impression in the paper. This will stand. Make sure your attorney has a copy. Brief pause. I hope it does not come to probate. But if it does, your intentions are crystal clear. She handed me the document in a protective folder. I thanked her and left. The drive to Sedona Ridge took 45 minutes. My condo looked exactly as it had yesterday. Modern stucco, desert landscaping, 4th floor corner unit catching afternoon light. But today, professionals were transforming it into something else. A fortress. The locksmith arrived first. Heavy-set man, maybe 42. Toolbox that looked like it weighed 60 pounds. These are commercial-grade deadbolts, he explained, holding up the hardware. Nobody is getting through these without serious equipment. Your old keys. He tossed Harold's copies into his toolbox. Useless now. He demonstrated the new lock. Solid mechanism clicking into place. You will have the only copies. I tested it myself. Once, twice, 6 times. The lock engaged smoothly, firmly. Harold's stolen key was worthless metal. Now the security company technician came next. Younger, efficient, climbing a ladder to mount cameras at the entrance. Motion activated. He said, records to cloud storage. You can access footage from your phone. He showed me the app, the live feed already streaming. Anyone approaches your door, you will know. I stood in the empty living room watching them work. Sunlight streamed through the windows I had chosen. Across floors I had selected in the space I had purchased with money I had earned. My home, mine. Back at my apartment that evening, I opened my laptop. Email from Lawson at exactly 7. See attached. The cease and desist letter was 4 pages. Dense legal language that boiled down to one message. Stay away or face prosecution. I printed it, placed it in an envelope. Then I started changing passwords. Bank accounts first. Investment portfolio. Email. Utility accounts. Each one replaced with complex combinations. I kept a written record in a notebook I locked in my desk drawer. The power of attorney I had given Beatrice years ago. Signed after Eleanor died when grief made me want someone to help manage emergencies that needed revocation. Lawson had included the form in his email. I printed it, signed it, scanned it back to him. Another vulnerability sealed. My phone buzzed. Text from Beatrice. See you tomorrow, Dad. 9 o'clock. Please have your things ready. I did not respond. The envelope with Lawson's letter sat on my entry table. Tomorrow morning. Harold would arrive with his moving truck and his stolen keys. Let him try those keys. Let him knock. I set the envelope where I would see it first thing, then walked to my window. The sun was setting over Phoenix, painting the sky orange and pink. Somewhere across this city, my daughter and her husband were packing. Confident, unsuspecting. I did not smile. I did not feel triumph yet. I just felt ready. One more night, then Sunday would come, and with it, The first real confrontation. I was prepared for it. The new locks were already tested. The cameras already recording. Lawson's letter sat in its envelope in my jacket pocket as I drove toward Sedona Ridge. 7 in the morning, roads nearly empty, sun still low. I wanted to be there first. Waiting, ready, the condo parking lot was quiet. I parked near the entrance, went inside, walked through each room, checking windows, locks, cameras. Everything secure, everything mine. At 9:30, I positioned myself inside the front door. The security camera feed showed on my phone. Empty hallway, elevator doors, stairwell entrance. I watched, waited. 9:55, the elevator opened. Harold emerged first, Beatrice behind him. He carried a clipboard and wore a polo shirt like this was a business transaction. She had her phone out, already texting someone. They walked to my door with absolute certainty in their stride. Harold pulled out his copied key, slid it into the lock, turned it. Nothing happened. He tried again, jiggling the key, pushed on the door. The deadbolt held firm. This key does not work. Confusion flickered across his face. Did you change the locks? Realization dawned slowly, then fast. You changed the locks. What is this? Victor, we had an agreement. His voice rose, echoing in the hallway. We have a truck full of our things. You cannot do this. I opened the door 7 inches. The chain lock held. What are you doing here? I let silence hang between us. I do not recall inviting you. I do not recall agreeing to anything. Beatrice pushed forward. Dad, this is cruel. We made plans. We gave up our lease. Where are we supposed to go? I pulled out my phone, tapped the screen, held it toward them. Here is what actually happened at Thanksgiving. Listen carefully. Harold's voice came through the speaker. Victor, I have made a decision about your situation. Sunday we will be moving into your Sedona Ridge place. My voice quiet. 4 days. Beatrice's voice. Do not make this harder than it has to be. I stopped the playback. You announced. You decided. You never asked. Harold's face reddened. This is illegal. You cannot lock us out of our property. I am calling my lawyer. We will sue you for everything. You are going to regret this, old man. I pulled Lawson's envelope from my pocket, unfolded the letter with deliberate slowness, held it up where they could read the letterhead. Lawson and Partners, legal terminology in bold print. Try it. Sue me. Call whoever you want. I kept my voice level, each word distinct. This is my property. You have no claim, no right, no permission. That letter explains everything. My lawyer's contact information is at the bottom. I passed the letter through the gap. Leave now or I call the police for trespassing. Harold grabbed it, scanned the first page. His jaw clenched. Trespassing, trespassing. That is rich coming from you. Beatrice's voice shifted, became higher, desperate. You cannot throw away your own daughter. After everything, Mom would be ashamed of you. That one landed. Just for a second. I felt it. Eleanor's absence. The hollow place her death left. But then I thought of the china on Thanksgiving. The meal prepared with love. Harold's sneer over dry turkey. Your mother taught you better than this, I said quietly. Do not use her to justify what you have done. I closed the door. The deadbolt clicked home with satisfying finality. Through the security camera feed, I watched them. Harold's mouth moved, shouting something I could not hear through the door. Beatrice pulled at his arm, trying to lead him away. He shook her off, paced the hallway like a caged animal. came back to pound on my door 4 times with his fist. I did not open it, did not respond, just watched the feed. Beatrice said something sharp. I could see her mouth the word leave. Harold pointed at the door, at her, then back at the door. His face had gone from red to almost purple. Whatever he was saying, it was not calm. A neighbor's door opened 3 units down. An elderly woman peered out, saw the commotion, quickly retreated. That seemed to register with Beatrice. She grabbed Harold's arm again, more forcefully this time. After 6 minutes of this, 6 minutes of Harold's rage spending itself against my silence and my deadbolt, they finally left. The elevator doors closed behind them, cutting off whatever final words Harold was shouting. I went to the window overlooking the parking lot, 4 floors down. Their U-Haul truck dominated the space, taking up 4 parking spots, orange and white. The rental company's logo bright in the morning sun. They had rented it, packed it, driven it here, expecting triumph, expecting to unload their lives into my home. Now they climbed into Beatrice's sedan, parked beside it. Even from 4 floors up, I could see Harold's arms gesturing wildly. Beatrice had her face in her hands, shoulders shaking, crying or laughing. I could not tell. They pulled away, leaving the truck where it sat, abandoned like their plan. The confrontation had lasted maybe 20 minutes. 4 days of their planning, demolished in a quarter of an hour. I looked down at my phone. The security cameras had captured everything. Their arrival, Harold's failed key attempt, my handing them the legal letter through the chain-locked door, their threats, their escalating frustration, their eventual retreat. I forwarded the footage to Lawson with a brief message. Sunday went as expected. Video attached. His reply came within minutes. Perfect. Save everything. Multiple copies. They will regroup and try again. Be ready. I sat on the floor of my empty living room. No furniture yet, just carpet and sunlight, and watched the footage again. Studied Harold's face when the key did not work. That moment of confusion transforming into understanding, then into rage. Beatrice's manipulation attempts, the way she had tried to weaponize her mother's memory. The abandoned U-Haul truck sat 4 floors below, like a monument to failed ambition, full of their belongings. Nowhere to go. How long before they had to return it? 24 hours. 48. And where would they take those belongings now? Lawson was right. This was not over. This was just the first battle, the opening move in what would likely be a longer war. I needed to understand what had driven them to this desperation. The urgency in Harold's plan, the 4-day deadline, Beatrice's willingness to betray her father. Something deeper was pushing this. Financial pressure, most likely. In my experience, desperate moves like this always came back to money problems. If my career had taught me anything, it was this: follow the money, and you will find the truth. Monday morning, I would start digging into Harold's finances, bank records, credit reports, property transactions, whatever I could legally access through public records and professional databases. I still had credentials for. The forensic accounting network did not just disappear when you retired. Contacts remained. Access remained. Knowledge certainly remained. I had investigated financial criminals for 38 years, tracked embezzlers, fraudsters, Ponzi scheme operators, found hidden assets, traced money through shell companies, reconstructed financial crimes from fragmentary evidence. Now I would investigate my son-in-law. The sun climbed higher over Sedona Ridge. streaming through my uncurtained windows. The U-Haul sat abandoned below, bright orange against gray asphalt, somewhere in Phoenix. Harold and Beatrice were regrouping, planning their next move, maybe calling lawyers, maybe calling family members to spin their version of events, maybe just sitting in shock that their certain thing had collapsed so completely. But so was I planning, strategizing, preparing for whatever came next. And I had a 38-year head start in this particular game. I stood, brushed carpet dust from my pants, took one more look at the parking lot below. Then I walked through my condo one more time, checking each room, each lock, each camera angle, everything secure, everything documented, everything ready. This was my home, mine alone, and I intended to keep it that way. The rest of Sunday passed quietly. I stayed at the condo until evening, then drove home. Monday morning, I made coffee and sat at my desk, knowing the next move would be theirs. I did not have to wait long. I had sent Lawson the security camera footage Sunday evening. His Monday morning email was brief. Excellent documentation. Expect counterattack within days. He was right. Wednesday afternoon, December 5th, someone knocked at my apartment door. Persistent knocking. Not aggressive, but urgent. I checked the peephole. Beatrice stood alone in the hallway, mascara running black streaks down her cheeks, tissues clutched in one hand. I opened the door, but did not invite her inside. Instead, I stepped into the hallway, pulling the door nearly closed behind me. Physical distance, emotional distance. Dad, please. Her voice broke on the word. We have nowhere to go. Our landlord already gave us 30 days' notice. Harold There have been problems I did not know about. We have debts. Serious debts. She wiped at her face with the tissue, leaving more smudges than she cleaned. I am your daughter. Does that not mean anything? We need help. Just let us stay in the condo temporarily. A few months while we figure things out. I watched her performance with detachment, the calculated pauses, the strategic mentions of family and daughter. In my career, I had investigated cases where family members manipulated vulnerable elders this way, crying on demand, invoking blood ties as leverage. You came to Thanksgiving dinner with this plan already made, I said. You announced you were taking my home and putting me in a facility. You did not ask for help. You tried to take what was not yours. I let the silence extend. If you are in financial trouble, that is unfortunate, but it does not give you rights to my property. Her tears stopped, just like that. Her face shifted, hardened. You are punishing me for marrying Harold. You never liked him. This is revenge. Her voice climbed higher. I made a mistake. Okay, but I am still your daughter. You are supposed to forgive family. Family does not betray family, I said. You need to leave now. I stepped back inside. Do not come here again unless you are invited. I closed the door, heard her standing there for another minute before her footsteps retreated down the hallway. The following Tuesday, December 9th, a certified letter arrived. I signed for it at my door, carried it to my desk, opened it carefully. Sterling Legal Services letterhead, cheap paper, smudged logo. The letter demanded I honor my verbal commitment to transfer the Sedona Ridge property to Harold and Beatrice within 30 days. I photographed it from multiple angles, documenting everything, then scanned it and emailed it to Lawson. His response came within an hour. This is amateur hour. Victor, Sterling Legal operates out of a mini-mall. This letter has no legal weight. Verbal promises about real estate. Statute of frauds requires written contracts. I will respond tomorrow and they will fold. A second email followed. But this tells us something. They are desperate enough to try anything. I typed back. Desperate people are dangerous. I need to understand what is really going on with them. What is driving this? That started me thinking, investigating, doing what I did best. On December 16th, I sat at my computer and opened the Maricopa County Recorder's database. Public records. Anyone could access them. I just knew better than most people where to look and what to look for. I entered Harold's full name. Harold Michael Thompson. Records populated on the screen. Property transactions. Mortgages. And there in red, a federal tax lien filed 9 months ago. $52,000 owed to the IRS. I kept digging. Found a second mortgage, home equity loan, taken out last April. $230,000. I opened a spreadsheet. Started tracking everything. Dates, amounts, creditors, cross-referenced property records with court filings. Built a timeline of financial collapse. 3 properties purchased last year, all sold at losses within 7 months. Total losses, $90,000. Credit card judgments, 4 of them ranging from $9,000 to $18,000. The picture emerged clearly. Harold Thompson was drowning financially, and Beatrice probably did not know the full extent. That home equity loan taken out quietly last spring. The timing suggested he had hidden it from her. Needed quick cash. Forged ahead without full disclosure. The tax lien had been filed in April. By Thanksgiving. They were desperate, not greedy. Desperate. They had not wanted to live in my condo. They had wanted to sell it. Use my equity. My $520,000 in cash to pay off Harold's debts while dumping me in assisted living where I could not object or interfere. I printed everything. Created a dossier. 48 pages of public records documenting financial catastrophe. As I collated the pages, my phone rang. Lawson, the mini-mall lawyers, sent me a response. He said, "They are withdrawing their demand." No explanation, just a brief notice that they are no longer representing your daughter and son-in-law. They ran out of money to pay the retainer. I said, "Most likely." "How is your research going completed?" "Harold is bankrupt in everything but legal filing. Tax lion, massive debts, bad property deals. He needed my condo to save himself." Lawson was quiet for a moment. "That information is leverage, but be careful how you use it." "I will." I hung up and looked at the dossier on my desk. 48 pages of ammunition. Knowledge was power, and now I knew everything. The question was what to do with it. Wait for their next move or make one of my own. I thought about Beatrice's tears in the hallway. Real desperation mixed with learned manipulation. She was in trouble. Married to a man who had lied to her probably about much more than finances. Part of me. The father part. The part that remembered her as a little girl who had climbed into my lap with storybooks. Wanted to help her. But the rest of me remembered Thanksgiving. The cold dismissal. The pamphlet for assisted living. The certainty in her voice when she said, "Do not make this harder than it has to be." She had made her choice. Sided with Harold. Participated in the attempt to take my home. Still, this information about Harold's hidden debts, Beatrice deserved to know she had been lied to. Not as forgiveness, as warning. I decided to wait. Not use the information yet. But keep it ready. Because Lawson was right. Desperate people were dangerous. And Harold was desperate in ways Beatrice did not even know. That made him unpredictable. And unpredictable opponents required careful handling. I filed the dossier in my desk drawer, locked it, and made myself dinner. Tomorrow, I would decide the next move. Tonight, I just needed to think. Outside my window, Phoenix spread beneath the December sunset. Somewhere out there, Harold was plotting. Beatrice was crying. They were running out of options, and I had all the information I needed. The advantage was mine. The question was how to use it. I had sent the invitation in late December, 4 weeks to let them wonder what potential resolution meant. 4 weeks to let their financial situation worsen. 4 weeks for them to build hope that maybe finally I was ready to negotiate. The note was brief. I am willing to discuss your situation. Come to my apartment January 11th at 3. Both of you. They arrived at exactly 3. I watched through the peephole as they approached. Harold wore a button-down shirt and slacks, trying to look professional. Beatrice looked exhausted, dark circles under her eyes, hair pulled back in a hasty ponytail. I opened the door. Come in. They entered cautiously, exchanging glances. I had arranged my living room like a conference room, my chair at the head, 2 chairs across from me with a coffee table between us. On that table, I had placed 3 identical manila folders, each thick with documents. Sit down, I said. Harold's eyes fixed on those folders immediately. He recognized the setup, the formality, the staging, the folders positioned like evidence at a deposition. This was not reconciliation. This was something else. Dad, thank you for agreeing to meet. Beatrice started, her voice tentative, but hopeful. We have had time to think, and I did not ask you here to listen to apologies. I interrupted. I opened my folder, the pages already marked with colored tabs. I asked you here to show you something. I slid the first document across the table. Federal tax lien. Harold Michael Thompson. $52,000. Filing date clearly visible. This was filed in April, I said calmly, conversationally. Public record available to anyone who knows where to look. Harold's face drained of color, going from healthy tan to ash and gray in seconds. Beatrice picked up the document, her brow furrowed with confusion. What is this? Your husband owes the IRS $52,000, I said matter-of-factly. Has owed it for 9 months since April. That is, Harold started, but I was already sliding another document across. This is the home equity loan you took out in April. $230,000 against your house. Also public recorded with the county. Anyone can access it. Beatrice's hands trembled as she picked it up, scanned the first page, flipped to the signature page. Her signature was not there. Only Harold's, last April. Her voice went high, strained. We talked about our finances in April. You said everything was fine. You said we were in good shape. You lied to me. This is invasion of privacy. Harold stood abruptly, his chair scraping back. How dare you investigate me? You had no right. This is harassment. I will report you for public records. I cut him off, my voice level and cold. Tax liens are public. Mortgage records are public. Property transaction records are public. Everything I found, anyone could find. Anyone with internet access and a name. I met his eyes. I just knew where to look. My 38 years as a forensic accountant taught me exactly where to look. I slid the third stack of papers across, watching them fan out slightly. Property transactions, purchase prices, sale prices, losses highlighted in yellow marker. You lost $90,000 on bad property deals over the past year. 3 properties bought, all sold at significant losses. The tax debt, the hidden loan, the credit card judgments. You are drowning financially. That is why you wanted my condo. Not to live in, to sell, to pay off your debts with my equity, while dumping me in assisted living where I could not object or interfere. Beatrice was reading through the papers now, hands shaking so hard the pages rustled. Is that true? Is any of this true? Harold did not answer. His jaw worked, muscles tensing and releasing. Answer me. Did you plan to sell his condo? Did you lie about everything? We needed that money. Harold's voice exploded into the room, bouncing off the walls. I needed it. Everything was falling apart, and you were useless. Just spending and spending on your painting classes and your brunches and your shopping. And your father had this property just sitting there, and he is old. Beatrice, he does not need that much space. He does not need. Get out. I stood, walked to the door, opened it wide. Both of you. This meeting is over. Harold grabbed the documents from the table, crumpled them in his fists. You think you are so smart. You think you have won. This is not over. Old man, this is far from over. Harold, stop. Beatrice reached for his arm, trying to pull him toward the door. He shook her off violently. No, I am done with this. Done with his superiority. Done with his games. Done with him acting like he is better than everyone. He wants war. He has got it. They moved toward the door, Harold storming ahead. Beatrice looking back at me with something I could not quite read. Confusion, betrayal, pain. All three. Beatrice, I said as they reached the threshold, you might want to check your own credit report. I suspect you will find some surprises Harold has not told you about. She stopped mid-step, stared at me, then followed Harold into the hallway. I closed the door behind them and listened to their argument continue outside. Voices rising, accusations flying back and forth. It lasted several minutes, a full-blown fight in my hallway before they finally left the building. I returned to the living room, gathered the copies of documents I had kept for myself, filed them away in my desk drawer. The meeting had gone exactly as I had planned. Better. Actually, Beatrice's shock had been genuine. The betrayal she felt, not from me but from Harold, was real and deep. I had driven a wedge into their marriage, into their alliance against me. She would never trust him completely again. The doubt would eat at them. Would it be enough to separate them? I did not know yet, but I had planted the seeds, and doubt was corrosive, especially in a marriage already stressed by financial catastrophe. I made myself dinner that evening, simple and quiet. Salmon with vegetables, a glass of water. As I ate at my kitchen table, my phone buzzed with a text. Beatrice. Just 2 words. I am sorry. I stared at those words for a long time. Was she apologizing for Thanksgiving for Harold? For choosing him over me? For herself, did it even matter at this point? I typed a response, then deleted it. Typed again, deleted again. Finally, I settled on 5 words. Actions matter more than words. I hit send and set the phone down, face up on the table, watching to see if she would respond. She did not. Sorry was not enough. Not yet. Maybe not ever. Too much had happened. Too much betrayal. But that text told me something important. The wedge was working. She was questioning her choices, questioning Harold. That was a start. Now I had to wait and see how Harold would react to being exposed, humiliated, revealed as a liar. Not just to me, but to his own wife. Cornered animals were dangerous, and I had backed him into a corner with no easy escape. I had turned his wife against him, exposed his failures, destroyed his credibility. He would not take that quietly. Men like Harold, men who built their self-image on confidence and success, they did not handle humiliation well. He would retaliate. The only question was how. January passed in cold silence. No calls, no visits, no messages beyond that single "I am sorry." I kept my routines: morning walks, coffee at the corner shop, weekly calls with Lawson to review any developments. There were none. The quiet felt like the eye of a storm. Beatrice's text had been the last communication. 5 weeks of silence. I wondered what was happening in their house. Whether Beatrice had confronted Harold about the credit cards, whether their landlord was calling, whether the debts were crushing them yet. Then came Valentine's Day. The knock at my door that afternoon was tentative, not aggressive. I checked the peephole. Beatrice stood alone. No Harold. She looked exhausted. Hair pulled back messily. No makeup. Dark circles under her eyes. In her hand, a white envelope. I opened the door but did not invite her in immediately. "What do you want, Dad?" "I did not come to fight. She held out the envelope. "I need help." I took it. 3-day notice to pay or quit. Rent amount $6,200. 2 months overdue. "I checked my credit like you told me to," she said. Her voice was flat. Defeated. There is debt everywhere. Cards I did not know he opened. Loans in both our names. $48,000 in credit card debt. I never saw. "I am drowning, and I do not know how to swim." I stepped aside. She entered and sat in the same chair she had occupied in January. But this time, her posture was different. Smaller. Genuine desperation, not performance. "I am sorry you are in this situation," I said. And I meant it. I truly am. "But you stood next to Harold at Thanksgiving and told me you were putting me in a home while taking my property. You did not come to me asking for help then. You came to take—" I let the words settle. "You are 38 years old. Beatrice, you are an adult. You need to handle your own problems. I made a mistake. I know that now. I see what he is," her hands twisted together in her lap. "But I am still your daughter. Does that not count for anything?" Pause. "I am not asking for much. Just enough to keep us from being homeless." I stood, walked to my window, looked out at the parking lot. Part of me, the father part that remembered her learning to ride a bicycle, that remembered teaching her to drive, wanted to write that check, wanted to save her. But I remembered the pamphlet for Golden Horizon, the cold certainty in her voice, the way she had avoided my eyes. "If you are homeless, that is Harold's doing, not mine. You chose to stay with him after January, after you knew the truth. Those are your choices." I turned back to face her. "I hope you find a solution, but it will not come from me." She left without arguing. I watched from my window as she walked to her car, sat behind the wheel for several minutes before driving away. For a moment, I questioned my decision. Then, I shook my head and returned to my routine. A week later, the certified letter arrived. Arizona Department of Economic Security, Adult Protective Services Division. I signed for it with a sinking feeling. A complaint had been filed questioning my mental capacity. A social worker would conduct a home visit evaluation. I called Lawson immediately. "This is a nuclear option from Harold," he said. "Adult Protective Services investigations are serious. If they believed him, they could petition for emergency guardianship. But this complaint is transparent retaliation. He paused. Just be yourself during the evaluation. Show them your financial competence. You will be fine. When will they come? Usually within a week of the notice. I spent the next 6 days preparing. Organized all financial documents in clearly labeled folders. Prepared a written timeline of the family conflict with supporting evidence. Cleaned my apartment thoroughly, though it was already clean. Made sure everything demonstrated competency, independence, mental clarity. On March 1st, Susan Ramirez arrived. Professional woman in her 40s, clipboard in hand, assessment forms visible. She wore business casual and had kind but evaluating eyes. Mr. Wellington, I need to ask you some standard questions. What is today's date? Who is the current president? Can you tell me why you think someone filed this complaint? Today is March 1st, 2025, I answered. The complaint was filed by my son-in-law, Harold Thompson, in retaliation for my refusal to transfer property to him. Here is the documentation of our dispute. The cease and desist letter from my attorney. The security footage from when he tried to force entry. The financial records showing I am fully self-sufficient. I handed her the first folder. She took it, eyebrows rising slightly. For 100 minutes, she conducted her evaluation, asked me to count backward from 100 by eights, toured my apartment, noting cleanliness, organization, safety, reviewed my bank statements, medication list. I took a blood pressure pill. That was it. And meal planning. Finally, she sat back on my couch, setting down her clipboard. Mr. Wellington, you are clearly competent. I have been doing this work for 14 years. You are one of the most clearly competent people I have evaluated. She made a note on her form. This complaint is textbook elder financial abuse, not you being abused through incompetency, but someone attempting to manufacture incompetency to gain access to your assets. I will recommend immediate dismissal and flag this as a malicious filing. Relief washed through me. But I kept my expression neutral. Thank you. I am sorry you are dealing with this, she added. Family disputes are the hardest, but you are handling it exactly right. Documentation, legal representation, maintaining your independence. After she left, I called Lawson to report the outcome. Excellent, he said. Her report will be filed today, and APS will close the case. But Victor, this tells us Harold is escalating, weaponizing government systems. That is a sign of desperation. What is his next move, I do not know. But desperate people do not stop. They double down. I hung up and stood at my window again. Somewhere out there. Harold was getting more desperate, more cornered, more dangerous. The storm I had sensed in January was building, and I had the feeling the worst was still ahead. A week after the APS dismissal, I thought maybe Harold had finally given up. I was wrong. The threatening text from late February had been the warning sign. March brought the actual storm. It started on a Wednesday evening around 7:30. I was reading in my living room when someone started pounding on my door. Not knocking, pounding. Victor, open this door. Open it! Harold's voice loud enough that neighbors' doors were opening down the hallway. I did not move toward the door. Instead, I picked up my phone and dialed 911. This is Victor Wellington at 2850 East McDowell Road, apartment 405. My son-in-law is at my door making threats. I have a history of conflict with him. I need police assistance. The pounding continued. You think you can ruin my life? You think you can turn my wife against me? This is your fault. Everything is your fault. The operator stayed on the line with me. Officers are 8 minutes away. Stay inside. Do not open the door. I heard other residents' voices in the hallway now. telling Harold to leave, someone threatening to call the police themselves. That seemed to penetrate his rage. The pounding stopped. I heard footsteps retreating. When police arrived 7 minutes later, Harold was gone, but 4 neighbors gave statements confirming his behavior. The officers took my report, photographed my door. One of his strikes had left a small dent, and filed an incident report. "You might want to consider a restraining order," one officer suggested. "This kind of escalation does not usually stop on its own." The next morning, I called Lawson. "It is time. I will prepare the petition today with the police report, the APS complaint history, the previous confrontation documentation. We have plenty of grounds." The restraining order hearing was scheduled for March 16th. $400 to file. Worth every penny. 2 days before the hearing, Beatrice called. "Dad, I need you to know I am leaving him." I said nothing. Waited. I should have left in January after you showed me the truth, but I was scared. Scared of being alone. Scared of starting over. Scared of admitting I had made such a terrible mistake. Her voice was different now. Clearer. Steadier. "The night Harold went to your apartment. The night the police came. He came home raging. Blamed me. Said if I had not told you about the eviction, none of this would have happened. Like somehow I had caused his financial collapse, his lies, everything. Where are you now? A friend's couch. I took what I could carry and left while he was at work. I am filing for divorce next week. That is a significant step. I know you do not trust me. I know I destroyed that. But I wanted you to know I am done with him. I am done being manipulated and lied to. I am getting a job, finding my own place, rebuilding on my own." Pause. "I am not asking for money or help. Just I wanted you to know." "I hear you," I said carefully. "Actions matter more than words. Beatrice, if you are serious about this, prove it through what you do, not what you say." "I will." She hung up. I sat with the phone in my hand, wanting to believe her, but not quite able to. Trust had to be rebuilt, not declared. The restraining order hearing was brief. Lawson presented the evidence. The Thanksgiving confrontation, the Sunday incident at the condo, the APS complaint, the recent door-pounding incident with police report. The pattern was clear. Harold did not appear, did not even send representation. The judge granted the order. 100 yards minimum distance. No contact, direct or indirect. Violation meant immediate arrest. "This is a tool, not a trophy," Lawson reminded me afterward. "It provides legal protection, but restraining orders sometimes enrage people further. Stay vigilant." I drove home with the certified copy of the order, feeling both relief and unease. Legal protection was good, but Lawson was right. I had just humiliated Harold again, stripped him of more control. That evening my phone rang. "Beatrice again. I filed the divorce papers today. Case number DV 2025-3218. I am sending you a photo of the filing receipt." The photo came through. Official court stamp. Her name and Harold's. Filed date March 19th, 2025. I am also filing a complaint with the Arizona Department of Real Estate. I said, about Harold's conduct during this entire situation, using his position unethically, copying keys without authorization, fraudulent representation about property ownership, silence on her end. Then he deserves it. Everything he has done. He deserves the consequences. I am not doing this from revenge, I said. I am doing it because his actions warrant professional discipline. I know, and I support it. We talked for a few more minutes. She told me about the job interview she had lined up, about the small apartment she was hoping to rent. She sounded sober, realistic. Not the manipulative daughter from December or the desperate woman from February. When we hung up, I allowed myself a small measure of hope. Maybe she was genuine this time. Maybe she had finally broken free. Time would tell. Trust took time to rebuild. But for now, I had one final piece of business to handle. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out a thick folder I had been assembling since January. Inside, documentation of every unethical action Harold had taken. The copied key, breach of client trust, the false representation of ownership, fraud, the aggressive behavior, conduct unbecoming a licensed professional. 4 months of building this case, cross-referencing dates with state regulations, organizing evidence. Tomorrow I would finalize the formal complaint to the Arizona Department of Real Estate. Harold had tried to destroy me. Now it was time to dismantle the last pillar holding up his life, his career. Not from anger, from justice. He had used his position to manipulate me. That needed consequences. My phone buzzed. Another text from Beatrice. Keeping my promises one step at a time. I looked at that message for a long moment. Maybe she was genuine. Maybe she had really changed. But regardless of Beatrice's transformation, Harold's reckoning was coming. And this time I would make sure it stuck. Late April became May. Spring in Phoenix meant heat returning. Temperatures climbing towards summer's furnace. The desert bloomed briefly before the real heat arrived. Palo Verde trees bright yellow against blue sky. Beatrice had visited 3 times more. Brief, careful conversations where we tested the boundaries of rebuilding trust. But I had other business to conclude. The complaint against Harold's real estate license sat complete on my desk, ready for filing. I had spent months assembling it, cross-referencing every action with professional regulations, organizing exhibits chronologically. On May 8th, I met Lawson at his office. The complaint was 20 pages. Every professional violation Harold had committed, documented and cross-referenced with Arizona Department of Real Estate regulations. Attached exhibits, photos of the copied key, security footage from the Sunday confrontation, police reports from both incidents, Lawson's cease and desist letter from December. "This is airtight," Lawson said, turning pages slowly, occasionally making notes. Breach of client trust, misrepresentation, harassment of a former client, violation of professional standards. The department takes these complaints seriously, especially when documentation is this thorough. They will investigate for 60 to 90 days, but based on this evidence, suspension is likely, revocation possible. He used his position to target me, I said, keeping my voice level. Copied keys without authorization, claimed ownership of property that was not his, leveraged his professional relationship for personal gain. That cannot go unpunished. If he keeps his license, he will do this to someone else. Someone who might not have the knowledge to fight back. Lawson nodded, closing the folder. "We will file today. I will handle it to ensure it goes to the right department." My personal statement concluded the document written in my precise professional language. As a former forensic accountant who spent 38 years investigating financial fraud, I recognize unethical conduct when I experience it. Mr. Harold Thompson violated every principle of his profession in his treatment of me as a former client. 20 minutes later, the complaint was officially submitted. The next 2 weeks passed in normal routines. Morning walks, coffee at the corner shop, monitoring my accounts, reviewing my security camera footage periodically, maintaining the habits that kept me sharp and aware. Around May 21st, I received notification that the department had opened an investigation. 2 days after that, my phone rang from an unfamiliar number. Mr. Wellington, I am Nathan Brooks. I am conducting a background investigation, and your name came up. I need to ask you some questions about your financial status, any legal issues you have had, medical conditions that might affect your judgment. Who hired you, Harold Thompson? Brief pause. I cannot disclose my client, but I am not answering your questions. If you contact me again, I will report this harassment to the police and my attorney. Have a good day. I hung up. Then immediately documented the call. Date, time, every question asked, the inference about who hired him, emailed it to Lawson with a brief note. Harold is investigating me. Document attached. This shows consciousness of guilt. Lawson's response came within minutes. Perfect. This helps our case. He is panicking, grasping for leverage. It will not work. The private investigator never called again. Harold had wasted $4,000, money he could not afford, on an investigation that found nothing because there was nothing to find. June 16th brought another call. This one official, Mr. Wellington. This is Maria Gonzalez from the Arizona Department of Real Estate. I am calling to inform you that based on preliminary investigation, we have issued a temporary suspension of Mr. Thompson's license. The full administrative hearing is scheduled for August 16th. You may be called to testify. I thanked her, hung up, and filed the suspension notice without celebration. Just another document in the folder labeled Thompson Harold Professional Complaint. Without his license, Harold could not work, could not earn commission, could not pay his mounting debts. Throughout these months, Beatrice appeared every Saturday afternoon. The first visits were stilted, awkward. She would sit in my living room nursing coffee I made too strong, updating me on job applications that mostly ended in rejection, apartment hunting in a tight market, divorce proceedings that crept forward slowly. By June, the conversations flowed easier. She had gotten better at talking without performing, at sharing without manipulating. I got the permanent position, she said during one visit, and I could hear genuine pride in her voice. Administrative assistant at a medical clinic. It is not glamorous, but it is steady. $42,000 a year. Benefits after 90 days. I signed a lease on a studio apartment. Small, but it is mine. 650 square feet. I am paying my own bills now. All of them. That is good. I acknowledged carefully. That is what independence looks like. Pause. How is the divorce proceeding? He did not contest it. No assets to split. Everything is in foreclosure or debt. Should be final by October. I do not talk to him anymore. My lawyer handles everything. She stared into her coffee. I have not seen him since March, the day I left. I watched her during these visits, noting the changes. The expensive clothes replaced with discount basics. The manicured nails now plain, cut short for practical work. The entitled attitude replaced with humility, with awareness of her previous behavior. I did not comment on these changes, just noted them silently. Evidence that her progress was real, not performed. Early July, I saw the foreclosure notice in the Arizona Republic's legal section. The house where Beatrice and Harold had lived was being seized by Desert Valley Bank for default on the $230,000 second mortgage. Public auction scheduled for August 13th. The pieces were falling into place. Harold's career suspended. His marriage ended, his home foreclosed. Natural consequences, not personal revenge, the system delivering justice exactly as it should. During the last Saturday visit in July, I asked her directly, "Why are you really here, Beatrice, every week? These visits, what do you want from me?" She set down her coffee cup, met my eyes without flinching. "Nothing. I do not want money or help or anything, except maybe eventually to have a father again. I know I do not deserve it. I know I broke something that might never be fixed, but I am trying to become someone who deserves a second chance, even if you never give me one." Her voice was steady, honest, direct. No manipulation, no performance, no tears deployed strategically. "That is the first completely honest thing you have said to me since Thanksgiving," I replied. "I know," after she left that evening. I walked to my desk and pulled out my will, the one that excluded her, the one I had drafted after January's confrontation. I began making notes for a new version, not because she had earned forgiveness yet, but because she had earned the chance to earn it. August would bring the administrative hearing, Harold's final reckoning. But for now, I allowed myself a cautious optimism that maybe, just maybe, my daughter was finding her way back, not to where we had been. That was impossible, but to something new, something built on honesty rather than entitlement. Time would tell if she could sustain it. The administrative hearing was scheduled for August 16th at 3. I arrived 40 minutes early. Dressed in a navy suit I had worn to testify in court dozens of times during my career. Lawson met me in the lobby of the Department of Real Estate offices. Harold's attorney requested a continuance yesterday. Denied. They are out of delays. We entered the hearing room, a formal space with a long table, recording equipment, and administrative law judge presiding. Harold sat at the opposite table with a lawyer who looked exhausted. Harold himself looked worse. Thinner, gray-faced, wearing a suit that hung loose on his frame. He did not meet my eyes. The hearing lasted 100 minutes. Lawson presented our evidence systematically. The copied key, the false ownership claims, the harassment, the restraining order. Every document organized, every timeline clear. Harold's attorney tried to argue that it was a family dispute, not a professional matter. The judge stopped him. Mr. Thompson used his position as a licensed real estate agent to gain access to Mr. Wellington's property, copied keys without authorization, and made fraudulent claims about ownership. This is precisely a professional matter. The decision came 1 week later. Certified letter, official seal, license revocation, permanent, effective immediately. I read the letter twice, then filed it away. Felt no triumph, no satisfaction in his suffering, only a sense of completion. Justice delivered through proper channels. The system had worked as it should. That weekend, Beatrice's divorce was finalized. She texted me the case number. The final decree, October 1st. She started therapy, processing everything she said, learning to recognize manipulation, to trust her own judgment. I invited her to dinner at my Sedona Ridge condo, the first time she had been inside since that Sunday morning in December when Harold's key failed. She arrived promptly at 6, carrying a small succulent as a housewarming gift. "I know I am 10 months late," she said, "but better late than never." I accepted it, placed it on the kitchen counter. We ate simple food, baked chicken, vegetables, quinoa, nothing elaborate. The conversation was easier now, natural. She told me about her therapy sessions, about recognizing the patterns in her relationship with Harold, about learning to stand on her own. After dinner, we sat in the living room. The sunset painted the mountains orange and purple through the western windows. "I need to tell you something," she said. A real apology. Not the ones I tried before. The manipulative ones. She took a breath. "I came to Thanksgiving with Harold's plan already made. I knew what we were doing was wrong, but I convinced myself it was okay because we needed the money because you were older and might not need such a big place. I betrayed you deliberately, and I am sorry, truly sorry. I do not expect you to forgive me. I just need you to know I understand what I did." I sat with that for a moment. "I updated my will last month," I said. "You are included again with conditions. The inheritance requires proof of continued independence, stable employment, maintain sobriety, no financial support from me. If you meet those conditions for 2 years after my death, you inherit. If not, everything goes to charity." She did not look hurt, just nodded. "That is fair, more than fair. Trust has to be earned," I continued. "You are earning it slowly, but you are doing the work. I will keep doing it," she promised. We sat together, watching the sunset fade, the city lights beginning to twinkle below. 10 months ago, she had stood in my old apartment, announcing she was taking this place. Now she sat here as a guest, grateful for the invitation. After Beatrice left that evening, I stood alone in my living room, the condo I had bought with my retirement savings, the one Harold tried to steal, the one that had started this entire war. I walked to the window and looked out at Phoenix spread below, lights stretching to the horizon as darkness settled over the valley. 10 months, from Thanksgiving dinner to late August, from betrayal to justice. Harold had lost everything: his license, his marriage, his home, his reputation, his future in real estate. He had tried to take my life, and instead he had destroyed his own. Beatrice had lost her marriage, but found herself, lost her entitled lifestyle, but gained independence, lost her father's trust, but was earning it back slowly, honestly. And I defended what was mine, not through violence or illegal means, but through documentation, evidence, legal processes, and the simple refusal to be a victim. My training had taught me to follow the money, track the patterns, build the case. Those skills had saved me. I thought about the will sitting in Martinez's office, the conditional trust I had placed in my daughter. Maybe she would earn it. Maybe she would not. But I had given her the chance, and that felt right. Justice did not mean destruction without mercy. It meant consequences fitting the actions and opportunities matching the efforts to change. The mountains were dark silhouettes against the deepening sky. Tomorrow was September 1st, a new month, a new season. The 10-month war was over. I had won, not through revenge, but through justice, not through anger, but through strategy, not by destroying others, but by protecting myself and holding people accountable for their choices. I turned from the window, tired, but satisfied. Tomorrow I would call Lawson, thank him officially for his work. Tomorrow I would review my finances, ensure everything remained secure. Tomorrow I would continue my life, the life I had defended, the independence I had preserved, the dignity I had never surrendered. But tonight, I would simply rest. The battle was done. Justice had prevailed, and I was still standing in my own home on my own terms, exactly where I belonged.